Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Open Book. I am Billy Price. I am one of the two co-founders of Billy Footwear, and if you've turned into Open Book or if you've tuned in to Open Book in the past, you probably have heard me say these words. I love Open Book. And the reason I love Open Book is because one, it gives us the opportunity to share a little bit about the brand, share our backstory. But I would say the part that probably warms my heart the most is it gives us the opportunity to share who we collaborate with, who we work with. And today we have a very special guest with us. We have Austin. He is the founder of RX Gaming, and I am so stoked to learn more. So Austin, welcome to Open Book.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So Austin, as I say, I did a little bit of checking in on your website, RX Gaming, and what I saw was really, really exciting for me. And I would love for you to share it. So could you talk about RX Gaming and share the good word?
Yeah, so it is an adaptive gaming program that I actually started while I was in residency about 2.5, almost 3 years ago now. So I am by training a pediatric rehab doctor, and I was in my residency at Cincinnati Children's, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted my life to look like as I became a doctor and did all those things, and started to realize, why am I not incorporating my personal passion like into what I'm doing, where we're helping people get back into ADLs, get back into adaptive sports? Why was I not doing like adaptive video games, which is something I'm personally passionate about? And so I happened to come across Able Gamers Charity, which is another nonprofit that focuses on like providing adaptive gaming, and was able to reach out to them and kind of get some mentorship on just what adaptive gaming even is, how I could use that in my practice, and how could I do that in Cincinnati. And it turned into them kind of teaching me everything they knew, getting me some equipment to get started. And then I started kind of having like one-on-one sessions with people in the hospital there of like, hey, you want to play games? Let's get some stuff out, see what works, and help you play games with your friends and family. A different nonprofit called The Bridge, Adaptive Sports and Recreation, which is in Cincinnati, like heard what I was doing and kind of absorbed me because they do anything adaptive. And they were able to provide like more resources, more volunteers, get the word out to just the community in general, of people who are going to their CP soccer and like other things to come to the gaming nights. And it kind of eventually turned into this community event because we had been in the hospital, but not everyone wants to go to the hospital to play video games. And so we were able to find a community event called Velocity Esports, kind of like a Dave & Buster's, but like a local place that has just an esports lounge that they donate the space to once a month. And so now it has turned into, we have 3 or 4 new gamers a month where they come in, work with our volunteers. We have so many boxes of adaptive equipment, joysticks, controllers, switches, things like that we can pull out in the moment, trying to see what works for them, what doesn't work, trying whatever games they want to play. There's free food for like families and people to enjoy. And then we always invite everyone back each month because we want to start building it into a community. So that way there's like, I think last month we had 6 returning gamers. The month before that was 7 returning gamers. So just trying to get everyone to play together. And we have a lot of aspirations to try and build that into more like leagues and collaboration with local high school esports team, college esports team, just everyone playing together and enjoying video games, which is my goal at the end of the day. And then as I finished training and moved to Indianapolis, which is luckily only a 2-hour drive away, I'm able to keep running the Cincinnati one. And then we're starting the Indianapolis branch actually in 2 weeks. So we've partnered with Butler Esports at their esports arena, where November 16th, we're going to have our first Indianapolis day, where we're going to meet with 4 new gamers and get them outfitted with equipment. And as this has grown a lot faster than I anticipated into something that I was not originally planning when I thought about this, it's kind of evolved into its own nonprofit. So as of July this year, we're recognized as a nonprofit by the IRS, and here we are. Now we're just looking to expand, and the hope is to get into other cities and just do these community events everywhere.
Wow. I mean, Austin, that is so cool. And I mean, my mind is racing with so many questions right here. So first off, is it when you're talking about like making the games like accessible, is it the actual, it's not like reprogramming the game, it's the actual I guess, the hardware, right? The actual instrument that one can use. So I guess you're kind of like analyzing like what, like for my case, I don't have good hand dexterity. So perhaps a joystick would be the answer, but you'd probably also need like action keys. So how does that work? I mean, I guess you kind of evaluate me, and then you're looking at the game that I want to play, and then you try to connect the dots.
That's the simple version. There's a couple of questions I ask every person when I'm first time I'm meeting them and like trying to figure out what works is, what do you play? What do you want to play? And what are the like difficulties that you currently have? And a lot of times the question, they might say, hey, I'm not playing because I'm just so frustrated because the normal controllers don't work for me. And so then it kind of turns into like a little occupational therapy evaluation where it's like, what movements do you have? What's easy for you to access? What's not easy for you to access? Are you comfortable using your shoulders, heads, mouth, things like that? Are you comfortable using your legs? You're stepping on buttons, things like that, finding what works for them. And then kind of after we have all that information, knowing what type of games they want to play, we start pulling stuff out, different switches, joysticks, putting them in different configurations. We actually have multiple occupational therapists who volunteer with us, which makes it really helpful in terms of ergonomics to help figure out what works. And then if it doesn't work, we just keep trying until we find something that does. So every person is unique. That's one of the fun things about it. It's like a puzzle of what you can do because everyone can do this, and just figuring out how we can meet you where you were at so that you can play the games you want to play.
Man, I mean, I grew up on some pretty simple games. Well, I mean, there were fun games, but in terms of like, I mean, the Nintendo, right? A Nintendo, you had like a cross and then you had 2 buttons. And now the games now, I don't even know how many buttons there are. I mean, the joystick is like, I mean, it's like a full body experience. So, I mean, how do you, I would imagine like the old school ones, it's significantly easier. How do you even wrap your arms around trying to put together some sort of control mechanism for these complicated games nowadays?
That's a great point. That's one thing, especially for people who have gamed before, that I always like to get in their frame of mind of like, this is a marathon, not a sprint, because the most popular games like Fortnite, Call of Duty, things like that, there's 20, 25 buttons they might need access to in a split second, which is not easy, especially when you're learning a completely new way to play games. And so I always frame it as, let's start as simple as possible with something where it's 1 button and a joystick and get you comfortable doing that. A game we commonly use is Rocket League because you can make it as simple as a gas pedal and turning left and right, and you can make it as complicated as 4 or 5 buttons and trying to be really fancy and flying the car around. So like as they get more comfortable, you can add 1 button here, 1 button there, trying to build up their coordination and confidence with using a completely different controller system. But it's all about just, I also compare it to like their just general recovery course of, hey, when you first started relearning trying to bathe yourself and dress yourself, it was really frustrating that first day. And you had to learn a lot over the years to get where you are now. It's the same with gaming. We're just going to have to like help you along the way of where you're at and figure out what works.
Man. So the nerd in me wants to like understand more of the technology. So how do you, I mean, how does it interface with the actual box, like by the television? Is it, I mean, are we doing Bluetooth, or is it actually like some sort of controller where there's a wire that all of a sudden that plugs into the actual console?